And we're back, guys. Tennis in a minute. I'm your host, Good Energy. Like this video, show some love, support women's sports, the two most electrifying ladies in the business. No disrespect to Sabalenka or Danielle Collins, but this is the championship in my opinion. And listen, guys, I would watch this match over the Super Bowl. I'm 100% being honest with you. If the Super Bowl came on today, I would watch this first and I'll tune into the second half or third quarter, fourth quarter of the Super Bowl. I'm telling you, this is the match. And when we're talking about big three, come on, guys. These are the two most electrifying players on tour. There's no doubt about it. So this Eastern media type of report thing they're putting out there, it's gibberish. These are the two most electrifying players in the sport of females tennis. Okay, without a doubt. And when we're talking about overall athletic ability, excitement, it doesn't get any better than Coco. It does not, guys. The way she defends, her athletic ability, Coco is electrifying and Iga is amazing. And we're going to take a look at this head to head. This is very lopsided, guys. 9-1. We know about it. I've talked about it in the past. I've done predictions on a lot of these matches, and you know, I've given you some very lucrative ways here to play this head to head because Iga's always such a huge favorite, and it's like Coco's so good, you know. A lot of times you just can't lose. But we're gonna take a look at all the times they played. First, aside from the win, first the first time they played was in Rome, 21. Iga won that, right? And that was the semifinal. So, and I say it all the time, Coco's had some very tough draws, but the first set went to a tiebreak. Iga won the second set 6-3 on clay. Now, Iga recently talked about how in juniors at the French Open, she lost to Kat McNally. Now, she would actually win a doubles championship with Kat McNally, but Iga lost to Kat McNally, and Coco would go on to win the junior French Open. Iga wanted to win that French Open, but she said it's great to see her peers from juniors, you know, even though Iga's older, you know, just to see her peers from juniors grow up and be successful. And Coco is by far a megastar. So is Iga. Now, Iga would go on to win several French Open championships. We know that. But Rome, arguably the most competitive match they ever played, you know, because when you first play someone, it's, you know, it's a lot of things that you don't know about them, and you start to figure that out on the court. Now, I feel that Iga has the best coach in the business. I think Elena Rybakina's got the best coach. I'd say Thomas is number two. And then to be honest with you, I think Rebus is a really good coach. I probably put him behind David Witt. And then I have Brad Gilbert in the mix somewhere. But I do think that I think Rebus is a very good coach, and it's a shame he parted ways with Coco because I like his style. I think he's a solid coach. He really is. And remember, when you're a coach, it's not about necessarily, you know, changing the player, you know, to fit a certain mold. It's about motivating them to be the best that they can be. It's about helping them stay tough mentally and helping them recognize what's going on when they need help or they're confused, you know. It's about giving them a game plan and making the proper adjustments to be successful in the court. That's what coaches do, and that's why I feel, you know, I talked a lot about the juniors and how I do think to some extent coaching should not be allowed on the junior level, you know, because you want them to learn to improvise and get better and problem solve. On the main tour, there's sponsors. There's a lot of money involved. It's a big deal. There's a lot of money at stake. I think you need coaching, right? Because then you can buy your coaching, and that's what you're paying your coach for. On the juniors, I think you have to teach the ladies to start to problem solve. But nonetheless, Brad Gilbert brought up a good point. We're going to get back to these matches. And the reason why I'm going to bring this up is because a lot of people think that Coco has had just the worst forehand ever, and it's again, it's hype. It's like these media reports. It's gibberish. It's not true. I actually watch all of her matches, and I've been telling you why she struggles with her forehand. Now, if you watch her on hard, she struggles with her forehand because she's too fast. She's literally running right through the forehand, and she's just missing, right? It's about stopping. And yes, tennis is a fast sport, but that's how fast Coco is. She's already getting ready for the second and third ball to come back. She's positioning herself to go on the defensive end, where she's not really setting up the forehand properly because she's running through the shot, right? And I've given you plenty of examples in the past where if you look at her on clay with the forehand, slower surface. She can't just run through these shots. She slides into a lot of them, and she that gives her the angle to get these balls back comfortably. Whereas on hard, she's just so fast. She's just running through these balls, and it's really a follow through issue, right? Where she's so fast on clay, different story, right? Different story. We've seen 30 plus shot rallies with the forehand, no issue, right? Because the issue was never really there all along. Now, in tennis, 90% of players, are going to hit a much more stable backhand because it's a more stable shot. You're able to set it up. You have two hands, you have two solid feet. It's a more stable shot. So when it comes to forehand or backhand, most players are going to make more mistakes on the forehand. So again, it's hype, and for the casual fan that doesn't understand this stuff, they'll believe it, and it's just not true. Now, Coco uses what they call a extreme Western grip. Okay, so she's one of the few. Most people are going with the semi-Western grip, but that has its disadvantages as well. Like, look at Ego, she uses a semi-Western grip. She's not a good net player. It's tougher at times to transition and cover the net. Look at Coco. She's got an extreme Western grip, plays the net perfectly well, perfectly fine. So the thing, I think that, and Brad Gilbert brought this up, I bring this up to my kids as well, and I'm going to give you an example. It doesn't, when you're an athlete and you've been doing something a certain way for so long, you get comfortable doing it that way, that you don't notice what others may think are flaws or defects, right? Take a look at Lonzo Ball. He's actually a pretty decent 3-point shooter, but his form is horrible. And there's other players, but take a look at someone like Sean Marion, who decent 3-point shooter. Steve Nash would have hit him the ball. And by the way, I see Steve Nash at all these tournaments all the time. That guy's amazing. He's pretty cool, guys. He's pretty cool. But ugly form, but he makes the shots, And it's not necessarily about, now when I do teach my kids how to shoot, I do teach them how I shoot, which is a very technical shot, and in particular, I'm going to use basketball because it's easier to explain. You know, if you're right-handed, you take your right hand, put it in the center of the ball, right, and you want to use your left as kind of a your arm for support. You're going to follow through underneath the ball, just a straight flicking motion, see the ball going through the hoop, and guide the ball with your right hand. Just guide it straight through the rim. And that's what I would call a technical shot. But I've been playing long enough to know that not everyone shoots like that. Not everyone wants to feel comfortable like that. I do think that if you go to this way, it can help you if you believe it will help you. But if you are used to doing things a certain way and shooting a certain way, mentally, that's tough to change. And Brad Gilbert said it best. Brad Gilbert said he is not going to attempt to change Coco's forehand because there's no guarantee that would work. Amazing. He said he's been around tennis for so long that he's seen, people change grips and do this, and there's times it doesn't work and it gets worse. He said she's been doing it for so long, she's had so much success doing it that way. The last thing he wants to do is change it. And I think that's what we forget. Coco has won a lot of matches. She's won a lot of championships. She's beat all these current names, just about any current name on tour right now. She's beat them in the juniors or on the main tour. And she's had success playing that way. Brad Gilbert does not want to change that, okay, because of media hype that I've been telling you is propaganda. It's just not true. Now, he did mention that, again, he mentioned she's had success for so long, he doesn't want to change it. But he did mention, and Coco has mentioned this as well, they do want to focus on going with the big serve, right? Serve is it's a weapon and I've said this, it's weird because I said this coming into the season. I think she's underutilized her serve. She's in terms of all time, she's about eighth or ninth all time as the fastest serve on record in women's tennis, but she's around fourth or fifth at the U.S. Open. Beijing, she hit the fastest serve. So Coco is very strong. I felt she's underutilized her serve. And I do feel when she gets this down packed, she said the goal is to go big, hard, and strong. And when she masters it, I do think she's going to be a problem. But again, the forehand, I don't necessarily think is an issue. But people don't talk about her backhand. Coco's got arguably the best backhand in the business. It's deep. She can stretch the court with it. She can come cross court, just stretching that angle to where it's impossible to return. And her footwork's amazing. But taking a look at the head to head with Iga, again, Iga styles make matchups, right? Why has Iga been so successful against Coco? And again, that Rome, the first time they played, they didn't really know each other, right? And once you start to play a player, you start to figure out their tendencies. They played the next year in Miami, 6-3, 6-1, and that was in the round of 16. And then they would play in the French Open final where Iga gave Coco a breadstick in the first round of the first set, 6-3 to cap it off. Then they play in the quarterfinals in San Diego, a bagel. They play at the Masters, a bagel in the second set. And I told you guys that at the Masters, I just felt that the U.S. Pegula and Coco, the U.S. duo there, a lot of people didn't really show up to support them. And that will make you feel down. I've seen a lot of these players play in their home country. No one shows up. And it really makes you sad. And I think overall, no one really, poor Iga was on the TV begging fans to come and saying, please come out and support us. And that's sad. And I didn't like to see that because, but I just think they held the WTA finals in the middle of nowhere for one. Texas is a football state, it's a basketball state, and even a baseball state. It's not a tennis state. Okay, guys? Yeah, Peyton Stearns did some good things at Texas University winning the championship, but in the middle of nowhere, and they did it on short notice. Again, I told you guys back then, you have parents with kids that are supposed to bring their kids to this match. They have to request time off from their job. They have to make arrangements to flight, hotel, travel. If they're going without the kids, daycare, babysitters. You can't just announce the WTA finals as the US Open is ending and think people are going to just stop and, you have to plan trips and vacations. So it's poor planning on the WTA and they wonder why attendance was down. And when these Americans and all the players see attendance is down, it's tough. And that's where I came up with the joke that a lot of these players couldn't sell out the local tennis club, right? But the reality is a lot of that had to do with the WTA just setting them up for failure. And I just feel that's why they played because Coco or Pegula didn't win a single match in the Masters, right? Against players that literally they done well against, Caroline Garcia, Coco owned the head to head. Sabalenka, she owned the head to head. So you get to a master event where they don't have their confidence. They don't even want to play. They didn't even win a match in doubles. But I gave you some very, very lucrative ways to play Iga and Coco because Iga's such a huge favorite against someone so good, right? So Dubai, Iga won that 6-4. The French Open, 6-4, 6-2. Now, last year at the French Open, I felt Coco played Iga the best, despite the win in Cincinnati. I felt she played her the best because I've been saying all the time for Coco to do better against Iga, she's got to bring Iga forward. She has to get Iga. Iga plays those quick, short rallies just inside the baseline, much like a Beatrice Haddad. But, of course, Iga's, she speeds opponents up. She's a better shot maker, better forehand. She loves to come across court and attack her opponent's backhand. And Coco, guys, she brought Iga forward. Didn't let her get stationary. Didn't let her go onto the attack. She sped her up. And Coco won a lot of points at the net. And I just felt that's how you have to play Iga while serving good and mixing it up much like a Rybakina where you extend the lines, play her deep, and a little bit of Elena Ostapenko, where you just step in on the second serve, you hit winners. It's a combination of doing a lot of things correctly to keep Iga off of her game, unbalanced, and second guessing you. Cincinnati, Coco had just had enough. Here's the thing with tennis: when you find your form and your rhythm, you're going to be tough to beat. That's why you see a lot of players come through qualifiers, and you see the players that are hot. They win championships, and they normally win one or two, like Danielle Collins. Once you find your form in tennis, it's like it's like you're playing on a ping pong table. You literally everything is going down the line and just winning, right? You're just making your opponent just look silly. So Coco just had her form, her rhythm, and she won that match easy. Beijing, very competitive, but Coco struggled with the double faults. We've seen Reba depart from her camp, and this is when Brad started to go big on the serve. Coco made a lot of faults in that match. And they played at the Masters in Cancun. Bagel in the first set. Court conditions were horrible. Very, very bad. I can't really, and I said then, I can't really judge that match because the conditions were so windy. It was rainy, cold, outdoors. The court's cheap. So I really don't have any feedback for that match because look, when you're playing in elements that are just too detrimental to you mentally, you can't really get focused. Here we go, guys. Here we go. We are in Rome on clay, and I think Coco's playing solid in the words of Iga Swiatek. This is a match here where I think Iga she's completely overvalued, right? But Iga's good. Now, Iga has nothing to worry about. When you play someone that you've beat and dominated in the past, mentally there's an edge there that you can kind of go into the match even if you're not playing your best level. You have that mental edge that can lift you up and pick you up throughout the match even if your level drops. Iga did mention though in the interview that, and she's been saying this for a while, that Coco's young, she's going to keep getting better, and she doesn't want to take her lightly. Iga said this several times. While Coco this week said that, and Iga also mentioned how Coco won the French Open in juniors that year that Iga lost. Iga said she wanted to win it. She watched Coco win it. But hey, she got 3 on the main tour, right? I mean, a lot more money. And, that's the big one, right? Now, Coco mentioned that she's getting better. She's been practicing and she wants to see, how she does. This is tough because mentally, this is the type of match where Coco goes into it. She knows everyone's watching. This is bigger than the Super Bowl. Like I said, I would watch this over the Super Bowl. If Coco gets down early, she has to stay tough mentally because this is not an issue of whether or not Coco can hang with Iga. We know Coco can hang with Iga. I say all the time with the joke that the only one that can beat Coco is Coco, is because Coco, I've watched her so much. She when she gets frustrated, she puts on that face, and you can read it. And your opponent, we talked about Andre Agassi, how he used to play. What's his name? I can't think of his name right now, but he used to play. One of his rivals, and he said every time before he would serve, he would literally do this thing with his tongue. And he said based on if he did it, and he didn't realize it. And this is what I talk about: repetition. When you do something so much as a kid and as a youth athlete, that carries you through your adulthood. And that's why I don't really put too much focus on grips and forms, because once you're a professional at doing something, you've proved already that you can do it at a high level, right? So Agassi, he said, yeah, every time he would serve, if he would go to the left, he would kind of wave his tongue to the left. If he would go to the center, he would kind of wave it to the left to the center. And he didn't realize that I was reading his serve based on his mannerisms. So the reality here is Coco has to stay tough mentally. If she starts to make mistakes, she's got to have a short memory, like Kobe said. Forget about it. You cannot let your last shot affect your next shot. Coco's so good defensively. She's the best defense player on tour. She breaks opponents at literally 56%. she wins 51% of her return game. She's going to break Iga. The key is she has to serve, and she has to, if she gets a fault or a double fault, she has to let it go right away. She can't be upset knowing that millions of people are watching and they're going to hop on Twitter, especially the haters, and start talking trash if she gets broken or loses a set. She has to block everything out and understand at the end of the day, it is a game. You guys are the best in the world, and you're in a good position to really just put on a show and give us entertainment. But it's not personal, it's not anything you should really get down about. And I think Roger Federer said it best. He said, look, at the end of the day, this is a game. I sleep well at night. I live a good life. There's nothing I do on the tennis court that will affect my life personally and make me sad or depressed. I'm happy. And I think Coco needs to go into this matchup with a positive attitude, optimistic, and play her game because she does a lot of things better than Iga. She's much better at the net than Iga. She's much faster than Iga. She's a better defender than Iga. She got a better backhand than Iga. Iga does a lot of things better than Coco. Iga's she's got a she's got an amazing forehand. Iga's forehand is much more consistent than Coco. She's got more range with the forehand. I do think Coco's got a better deep ball than Iga. I think Iga plays better inside the baseline. She's got a better serve placement. Iga's good at speeding opponents up and rushing them. And those are the key to victories. If both ladies do what they're capable of doing, I think we'll get a good match. My pick in this match, I like Coco. Iga's such a huge favorite. I like Coco plus 7.5 games. I think it's too many games. Uh, that's simple. That means Coco needs to win at least 3 games a set, to win that prop. So that's the pick there, guys. I do think it's going to be a good match. Iga's a huge favorite in this one, guys. She was also the favorite to win Rome, going for her third championship. Do I think Coco can beat Iga? Absolutely, I think Coco can beat Iga. Coco is really, really good. Coco is really good. As long as Coco defends, she's going to break Iga. The only thing that concerns me is she has to reduce her double faults. Coco cannot have. I think she's got to have zero double faults, like no more than two. She cannot give Iga second serves because Iga's her forehand's too accurate. Iga steps in on the second serve, she's gonna hit winners, you know. And Coco mentioned this, and this is what I've always said about Sabalenka, and I get a lot of people that hate. I've been saying this about Sabalenka for years. I agree with Sabalenka. I teach my tennis players, listen, the point of the serve is to go big. If I can't get the first serve in play, I have another serve to try and get what I want out of that serve, whether it's an ace, whether I'm being strategic. I have 2 opportunities to get that serve in play as strong and as fast as possible. I've said that always about Sabalenka. Sabalenka has said she's not taking anything off the second serve. And I've said this before she said it. Sabalenka said, I'm not taking anything off my second serve. My point is to get my serve in. Now Coco's doing that. That's why she's faulting a lot. She's not taking anything off the second serve. And that's her goal with Brad Gilbert. And Andy Roddick, look, one of the fastest serves on record. That's the goal with Brad Gilbert. We know that. And I just feel Coco's got to serve well in this matchup. But comment below, guys. Drop a heart. I got another video. Like it. Check in. Drop your flags where you're checking in from. Let me know the keys to victory, who you think's going to win. We're going to go with Coco plus 7.5 games. That's the official pick. I think she's just laying too many games. Coco's too good. She's too good. Simple as that. And Iga's too good too. May the best woman win, guys. We'll be back. Tennis in a minute. See you soon.